Did you need that? I think that works.
Oh, nice. Look at what I get.
Well, I got
No,
this.
not even times. It's out of photo.
Brian looks good. Brian looking good. Not looking real sick. Karen's looking good. You guys look good. Yeah. Couple of alien people.
Karen, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
No response.
Yeah. All right, it's gotta be 11:30, 4:30 now. My watch says 4:30.
No, my screen does not work.
Who's that?
Send a message to Sebastian. I'll send a message to Sebastian. Oh, Joel, can you help us? 2 of the monitors up here aren't working. And it's always these 2, so I don't know if it's something like a loose cable or.
Grief.
That is amazing.
Be with you momentarily, guys. We have a technical issue. Alrighty. We're now technologically equipped, I think, to go ahead and conduct the meeting. It is October 2nd, 2023. We are Carmel-by-the-Sea City Council. Call a meeting order. Nova, could I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Barron?
Here.
Councilmember Dramoff?
Here.
Councilmember Ferlito?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Richards?
Here.
Mayor Potter?
Yeah.
All are present.
Okay, first thing we need to do is get a request to approve Councilmember Felita's remote participation request, just cause per Government Code Section 54953F. Could we get a motion?
I'll make the motion that we approve that.
I'll second it.
Motion second, any discussion? No, could we get a roll call, please?
Yes. Councilmember Barron?
Yes.
Councilmember Dramoff?
Yes.
Councilmember Ferlito?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Richards?
Yes.
Mayor Potter?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, first order of business then is public comment. This is an opportunity for any member of the public to comment on an item that is not on tonight's agenda. 3-minute limitation on the testimony. State your name for the record, I'd appreciate it. Anybody wishing to testify tonight? I'm not seeing anybody. I don't see anybody in Zoom. I don't see anybody in the house here. Do we have anybody in Zoom that wishes to testify? All right, I'll close the public comment period. Moving on then to open public session, public appearances. We have consent items. I think there's 11 items on consent. Is there anybody in the council wishing to pull an item?
Yes, items 4 and 10.
Item 4 and what, Jeff?
And 10.
4 and 10, all right. Okay, this for discussion or action?
Yes.
Okay. So anybody in the public wishing to pull an item? All right, bring it back to council then. Why don't we move items 1 through 3, 5 through 9, and 11?
I'll do that.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Oops, so excuse me, we need a roll call.
Councilmember Barron?
Yes.
Councilmember Dramoff?
Yes.
Councilmember Ferlito? Councilmember Ferlito?
Karen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Richards?
Yes.
Mayor Potter?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, that brings us to item number 4. Jeff, you pulled this. Would you like to give some explanation?
After public comment, I just have concerns with some of the things in the
Okay,
ordinance.
well, this is consideration of ordinance number 2023-006, second reading, which would amend the Carmel Municipal Code, CMC, Title 17 zoning, by repealing and replacing the chapter 17.46 and a variety of other code actions, and finding the same exempt from the Coastal California Coastal Environmental Quality Act in full compliance with the local coastal plan and the California Coastal Act. All right. Is there anybody?
I'm sorry, Dave, I could have done that.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so Jeff, you don't want to speak to why you're pulling this?
I'll wait until after public comment, just that I have concerns with the ordinance.
All right, is there anybody in the public wishing to comment?
About the ordinance?
Yes, please.
Hi, Tasha Witt, resident. I think last time Jeff Barron had some concerns on the ordinance about the Historical Resources Board being included, and it was mainly a concern due to shot clock, I believe. And I think that it's more important that we, after all the work that's been into the ordinance, that it's passed, and that they could work jointly on a meeting if they needed to. And I believe the Planning Commission supersedes the Historical Resources Board, but I'm not sure. And then with property value impact, Mr. Barron also had some concerns about that. And we had advised our attorney with the Stop Cell Towers Carmel Neighborhoods Group, who advised that it should be in, that it's well-documented federal case law to be able to be a case, and has went all the way up to the 11th Circuit and won in the 11th Court of Appeals in the federal courts. And numerous research and articles are on his website. Particularly, it was also talked about in the Planning Commission, and on advisement from attorney Gail Karish, she did put the words in, and also for adverse impacts to property values. Specifically, it should be in the ordinance. And also the science law and public policy reports. Overwhelming 94% of home buyers and renters surveyed say they were less interested and would pay less for a property located near a cell tower or antenna. And already the Planning Commission listens to people make cases about property values on their homes. So I don't see a reason why you would deny people to protect their property value. Thank you.
Tasha, since we're a little out of order here, I'll go ahead and let Jeff make his comments, and then if you have concerns with those, we can make a comment then.
Well,
'cause otherwise, there's no reason for you to pull it.
Yeah, with respect, usually the council deliberates after public comment, right?
No, we ask questions, then we go to the public, and then we deliberate it.
Okay, I don't have any questions.
Okay.
I would like to wait until after public comment and then have a council discussion like we would normally do, if that's all right.
Council?
Isn't that the normal standard of?
No, actually, what I would do is I'd go to staff and get a presentation right now of the process that's before us now. So if you're continuing to amend the ordinance, then no, we should go through the normal process, I think. Okay, you want to do, is that what you're going to do, Jeff?
I'm going to ask that the ordinance be changed.
Okay, so then I better go to a staff presentation. Brandon, are you prepared to give a brief synopsis for us?
Sure, I can do my best, and I know Brian's on here as well. So basically where we're at in the process is the second reading of an ordinance. You had your first reading. There were some minor modifications that were made during that meeting. That resolution has come back to you. It's what was attached to the small staff report in the agenda today. We were just seeking council second reading and approval, adoption of that. From here, it still has to go to the Coastal Commission, but this would be the end of the council's involvement in the ordinance at that point. Now, to whether or not any more changes today affect whether or not the ordinance can be adopted today, I'll defer to Brian on that, to the level of changes that can be made before it can not be adopted today.
Seems to me the magnitude of the ordinance changes would be whether they would bring it back for an amended second read or not.
Perhaps,
read.
Brian, can you weigh in on that for the council of what level of changes? Does it have to be exactly what was seen from the first reading?
You can make changes that are clerical in nature. Any substantive change would require another first reading.
Exactly. Thank you, Brian. Okay, Jeff.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my concerns, what I'm going to speak to today is the inclusion of the word property values in the ordinance. But first, I'd like to clarify something. Brian, when Ms. Witt got up, she asserted that Gail Karish suggested that this language have an adverse impact on property values. She suggested that Gail Karish encouraged the inclusion of those words in the ordinance. And I know that Ms. Karish isn't here, but since this has been brought up, did the city attorney think that was okay, or were those words put in the ordinance simply because the Planning Commission requested it?
Well, it's my understanding that the words were put in because the planning commission requested it. And it's also my understanding that Gail Carish indicated that those words could be included
Okay,
in the ordinance.
thank you. So I have, as I expressed 3 weeks ago, I have concerns, specific concerns with the words adverse impact on property values and their inclusion in the ordinance. I have two concerns. The first is by including this language in the ordinance, I think it leaves for example, a potential decision of this poll versus that poll to a battle between homeowners and lawyers. And so I have two polls in front of my house. So one of the polls is surrounded by four homes that were newly renovated, and the other pole, which is one lot away, is surrounded by four homes that are older, that haven't been renovated in the past 20 years. So if we're going to put something in our ordinance that has to do with the value or the loss of property value in their homes, does that mean that the pole that's in front of my house, which is surrounded by four newer homes, has less of a chance of being chosen than the poles around the four less expensive or older homes? Like, that seems to me that does a couple of things. It pits neighbor against neighbor in terms of where this antenna would be put, where this antenna would be located by the telecommunications company, and it pits homeowner lawyer against homeowner lawyer. What if I have a good lawyer and my neighbor doesn't have a good lawyer, and we interact with the phone company and we say, we'd like you to put the wireless antenna over there? Is that something that the city, we as policymakers of the city, is that something that the city is prepared to sanction, like that sort of battle between homeowners? And I don't find that sort of battle is keeping with what our community should be. The second problem I have with this is that by including the words have a wireless impact on property values in the ordinance, I believe that this will cause the Planning Commission and the City Council to reject all wireless communications locations. And no one has explained to me how any wireless communication location will ever pass muster in the R1 district. We heard last time, 3 weeks ago, we had testimony from at least one real estate agent that this would cause a loss in 20% of the property values. So if I can go out and hire a real estate agent to come to, or not even hire, ask a real estate agent to come to the Planning Commission and the City Council and say, this is going to cause my property values to go home by $20,000 by 20%. How is any location in the R1 district ever going to pass muster? Like, I do not understand. I simply do not understand how we will ever reach a conclusion that this is okay. And de facto, we will be enacting a ban. On wireless communication facilities in the R1 district. And we've had conversations about this, and I've always been very clear that it was a goal of mine that we enact an ordinance within, that is within the bounds of federal law. And I understand that property values are important, and I understand that the things in this ordinance are important. But I can't vote for I can't vote for an ordinance that defies federal law. I simply can't do that. So I'm asking for the ordinance to be turned around, and for these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 words to be stricken from the ordinance. Thank you.
All right. Staff have any comments? Good.
Available for questions.
Good. I think we've got it under control. Thank you. I'm sorry.
They got to be confused.
Yeah.
It
Hmm.
was public, and he wanted to go, and then the public didn't get the match.
All right, fine.
I would just like to say that if the carrier can prove that they have a significant gap, you cannot stop them from coming in. So your scenario of saying that how would you ever get anything in an R1 district? If they can prove they have a significant gap, they can go wherever they prove they have that gap. So I'm sorry, hi Mayor Potter and City Council members, I'm sorry, I went right to that. This is Christy Hollenbeck from Stop Cell Towers in Carmel neighborhoods. As you know, a lot of time and effort has been put into this wireless ordinance. Our group and our attorney, who's one of the top telecom attorneys in the country with over 30 years experience, has worked on this ordinance and collaborated with the city and the city telecom attorney, who also okayed what we have presented. And we feel that we do have a strong ordinance that will help protect Carmel from unnecessary cell tower proliferation. I hope you will pass this ordinance as it is unanimously recommended by the planning commissioners, and most importantly, keep the property value impact in, as Mr. Campanelli felt it was very important, and our planning commissioners all agreed. Gail Carish also agreed to put it in, and so that means that she thought it was okay to put in. Adam Pinterest, a community affairs director for the Monterey County Association of Realtors, said that he agreed with Mr. Campanelli as well about the impact to real estate values. And we had another real estate agent speak as well, and she also agreed. Mr. Campanelli just thought it was, if you had to argue it in court, it should be in your ordinance. So it's a valid thing to have in there, and we fought to keep it in, and the planning commissioners wanted it in. So I ask that you just pass the ordinance as it was presented by the planning commissioners, and it does not violate any federal laws.
Thank you for your testimony, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So, Ms. Hollenbeck said that with a gap in coverage, wireless providers will be able to put a facility in the R1 district. But unfortunately, what she said is exactly contradicted by the words that I read in this ordinance. The words in the ordinance do not say that if there's a provable gap in coverage, wireless providers will be able to install a wireless facility in the R1 district. The ordinance says the proposed wireless facility will not result in have adverse impact on property values. That's what it says. So if the council wants to go down the road of creating an ordinance that establishes that wireless providers have to establish that they have a provable gap in coverage. This ordinance does that without these 8 words in the ordinance. That is what I'm asking for, is for these 8 words in the ordinance to be removed.
Okay, Jeff's made his case. Council members?
Brandon, do you recall any conversation that you had with City Attorney Gail concerning this?
Sure, no, that's a good question. So if you remember when we came at the last city council meeting, we had prepared a series of matrices as we went through the process that took comments from the public, where we responded to them and where we didn't. And we took that to the planning commission and we showed why we either did or didn't incorporate something into the draft. So at the recommendation hearing, so the last time we saw the planning commission, that matrix did have the request to include this language about property value. At the time, myself and Gail, we didn't recommend including that. So we did put on there it's in the matrix that was attached to the last go around. We did not recommend the planning commission include that. The reason we gave was that we felt, one, that the design guidelines that exist right now in the wireless ordinance, they protect things that drive property value, things like sight lines and all that, the beautification stuff. So we felt like the property value stuff was protected already without specifically calling it out, because we also felt, and this is what we said at the hearing to the planning commission, we felt that property value is a difficult test to pass. You can get different letters from different real estate agents. We felt that the ordinance had the strength on its own merit to protect against those things that hold the property values high here in the city. So the planning commission, as their want to do, just like this body can do, they didn't accept staff's recommendation. So that's what we included to come to you with those extra words about the property value, but it was not staff's recommendation at the time. And both Gail and I worked on it together. The reason Gail was okay with it, because it doesn't violate any federal laws. That is true. Whether or not it makes it a more difficult finding to make, or whether it's a reasonable finding, is really up to the planning commission and ultimately up to you as the policymakers. if that's a finding you think we should be making.
So if I understand right, the city attorney was fine with the language, and the planning commission wanted the language in.
The planning commission wanted the language. The wireless attorney and myself both recommended against it in our comments to the planning commission. But when asked the question, does this language violate any laws? The answer was no.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Brian.
Other comments or questions by council members? Alessandra?
I just feel really strongly that this process was so thorough, and the Planning Commission spent so much time and really did a fine job in what they did, and I just feel very uneasy at the very last minute trying to make a change. The lawyers have seen it, and I would prefer that we just go ahead with it as is and approve it today.
Karen, any thoughts?
No, I really don't have any right now about this. This is a little confusing.
Okay. All right. Well, I sense the will is probably to go ahead and leave it as it is then. Jeff, did you have anything else?
Yeah, I would just like to say, thank you for the opportunity. I would like to say, sort of in reference to Brandon's comments, I can accept that the language itself is not in violation of federal law. Like that, it's easy, it's easy to say that the language is not in violation of federal law because the language doesn't say you can't put a wireless facility in town. Like that's what it would take to, I think that's what it would take to violate federal law. The problem I have is how is this language going to be applied in a manner that does not violate federal law? So if you would like to speak to that, if the language says, how do you think that the planning commission, the city council could say this wireless facility won't have any adverse impact, if we recognize that it does have an adverse impact on property values and we say no, would that violate federal law? Would the repeated no's violate federal law?
This might be more a question for Brian. Brian Pierrick, are you available? You seem to be intently listening.
Yes, I'm listening. Well, presumably the way that it's phrased, the planning commission or the council could make a decision, yes or no, on whether, based on the evidence that's presented, there is or is not an adverse impact on property values. So that would be the question that the planning commission and perhaps ultimately the council would need to make.
All right.
So on one hand, we're going to be in a situation where we have a hearing about a wireless company that comes in and wants to put an antenna in front of someone's house. And that person is going to get up and say, they're going to have a real estate agent, and the person and the real estate agent and the lawyer are going to get up and say, the value of my house is going to go down by 20% if this antenna goes up near my house. And we're supposed to believe that after repeated applications and repeated hearings, and after all these real estate agents and all these lawyers come up and tell us that there will be, a 20% reduction in the value of my house, that at some point the planning commission and the city council are going to say, no, that's not the case. The value of your house is not going to go down. That is a scenario that I do not see happening. And I believe that the best way to not find ourselves in the scenario where we are constantly faced with having to say yes or no to this, that we just excise these 8 words out of the ordinance. So I'm finished, and I will simply vote no.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. All right.
So I'll make the motion that we approve the second reading of the ordinance number 2023-006.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All right, Nova, could we call a roll, please?
Councilmember Barron?
No.
Councilmember Dramoff?
Yes.
Councilmember Ferlito?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Richards?
Yes.
Mayor Potter?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1.
Okay, Jeff, you also approved resolution number.
Yes, thank you.
10, which is, you want to go ahead and read it?
So I appreciate the council bearing with me during that last discussion, and I promise this one will be a little shorter. I did have a conversation, so I am going to support this item item number 10, but I did want to have a little
So the
bit more.
public is aware of what it is, Jeff.
Oh, this is the purchase of 4 police trucks.
Two.
Two police trucks, bringing our total to 4 or 6 or some number. And I did have a conversation with the police chief this morning about this, and I'm sort of satisfied with what's in the staff report and sort of the process. And I wanted to thank the chief. I know he's away with his kids, but I wanted to thank him for taking a few minutes and having the conversation with me. But there are two things in this that cause me concern, and I wanted to bring it to everybody's attention so that the next time this happens, it's not a surprise. The first is these police cars are not electric. We've had extended discussions about, we have an electric street sweeper, but a diesel powered, fire engine, and we had a lot of discussion about that last time. And I had the same discussion with the police chief, almost the same discussion with the police chief this morning. But I would really like to see, it's called out in the city's climate action plan that we need to electrify our fleet, both in the city and in the community. And I would really like to see a lot of emphasis placed by staff on the acquisition of electric vehicles. I know that, according to the chief, and electric police cars are just not quite there yet. We talked about the acquisition of electric police cars, electric Teslas and Seaside, and they're a good guinea pig, and that has had, my impression is that has sort of had its ups and downs in terms of getting the cars serviced and whatnot. But I would like staff to make I would be interested, or I would like staff to make a real concerted effort to acquiring electric vehicles. Like, let's just not have any more gas-powered vehicles. Like, I think that, that's where we're going, and we need to figure out, I think we as a city need to figure out how to get there. And I hope that when police cars come up next time, that there's been enough satisfaction, that there's been enough progress in the acquisition of police vehicles that we can get police vehicles too. And the second thing, I was kind of struck by the pictures. I Googled Ford 150 or whatever kind of vehicle it is, whatever kind of vehicles these things are, and I was kind of struck by the pictures that you find online of what these pickup trucks actually look like. And they're really big, imposing vehicles. They're vehicles that, they belong to the class of vehicles like Suburbans and like the other things, like the other enormous vehicles that basically kill people when they hit them. And I don't think that that is a particularly good look for the city, for the police department, in our community. And I don't think it's a really good stand. Like, I just think, in this age of cars getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and more dangerous to pedestrians and people on bikes and other cars for that matter, I would really like it if we could find a way to sort of downsize the size of the city's fleet, not having them keep getting larger and larger and larger. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Hey, Jeff, thank you for those comments. I would concur with you on the at least on the electrification of them. I was very much in agreement with that. Good. All right, anybody else? All right, Jeff, oops, go ahead, Karen.
Yes, I agree that we should be given choices and comparisons between electric vehicles and the gas-powered vehicles whenever we can, because if it makes sense financially and also equipment-wise, we should be moving in that direction. So this is brought to us without a choice, and I would prefer in the future that we do have that comparison and that choice, just like we did with the fire truck.
All right, good. All right, well, I think we have concurrence here. Can we get a motion then to approve?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2023-097.
Second? Second. Okay, thank you. Nova, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes. Councilmember Barron?
Yes.
Councilmember Dramoff?
Yes.
Councilmember Ferlito?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Richards?
Yes.
Mayor Potter?
Aye.
Motion carries.
That concludes our business for the day. We'll go to closed session. We're going to closed session, public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, Title City Administrator. We will report out if there's anything significant happening tomorrow night.
You need to take public comment.
Huh? What?
Oh, we need.
Oh, you want public comment on that too? I thought I did that. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Sorry. Yeah, so is there anybody in the public wishing to comment on this item? Seriously, he said no. Okay, there's no public comment. Thank you.
I think so. Larry, you can go, right?
Huh?
You can take one.
Yeah, you're good. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Well done.
So I need to log into Zoom there and then make sure you have Zoom on there before I
Cool.
leave, unless it's kind of working right now.
And kick off those two, kick off Mary and Christie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, let me do that.
So this is Nadine. I just want to clarify and just stay on this Zoom. Is that correct? The link I'm in right now?
I believe so, Nadine. Nadine, we're just going to stay on this Zoom, is that correct?
Yes.
And
Okay.
the